lies, betrayal, attacks, woke. If you're here for a review doused in cynicism, dripping with disdain, you're in the wrong place. I don't have an outrage fetish. I don't get off on negativity for views or likes, but I got something to say about this new Masters of the Universe cartoon, and I'm glad I stuck to collecting Masters of the Universe Origins and didn't bite on the new Revelations toy line. PopCon's review on Motu, Part 1, up next. Welcome back to PopCon. A salute to all pop culture, but mostly the 80s, and especially He-Man. And now for something completely different. A refreshing review on the Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revelations cartoon by Kevin Smith. And you know what? If I were you, with all these reviews going around, I'd watch mine just to not feel dirty. Yeah, there's a lot out there. A lot of crazy, mostly negative stuff, but I'm not saying I like it, and there was some good stuff in it. So originally, this was a 2-part review. I watched the first episode, recorded all of this review about it, and decided I'd make a part 2 about the other 4 episodes. But then I watched the rest of the season, scrapped that entire review, and said, all right, here we go. One review on Masters of the Universe Revelations by PopCon. Here it is. So this review is from an OG fan. What is an OG fan? I've mentioned it before, OG or original. I'm a legacy fan because back in the very beginning, I received a He-Man and Skeletor action figure for Christmas. It was such an early bird of them. Nobody knew who they were. Nobody had any accompanying media at all to them. They were just He-Man and Skeletor. And by the way, with one half of the power sword each. So that was always something I wanted to explore. I didn't know who they were, but I fell in love with them. I knew I liked this, whatever it was. When that cartoon came out, I was there watching every single episode, waiting and looking forward to every new character and even vehicle and animal that was introduced in the show, because that meant I probably get it on a toy. So like many, I was really skeptical on what we were about to see. I had heard a lot for sure going in, and I was a little nervous, but I was going to see all of my Masters of the Universe friends, so that kind of made sure I was going to see the show. So I have seen the show, and I am ready to break it down for you, my PopCon folks. Now, after the first episode, I was intrigued to go on. I loved what I saw, but let me put a caveat there. I love what I saw for 3/4 of it. The very last moment is where I sort of got like, I also realized that knowing that there were 2 chapters of this cartoon, I really believe there should be 3, but more on that later. Character designs were comforting. Even Teela's character design, fantastic. The designs looked very much like what I was familiar with, so I was glad to see that. Character sightings from Spikor and Clawful and Fisto and Clampchamp, seeing those characters made me very happy. All at once, everywhere around me, I was seeing a character. So I really liked, that was enjoying. Some voice work, top notch. Some voice work. Animation, for the most part, pretty magical. Honestly, there was some beauty that I saw. Sometimes I saw animation that was a little flat, but other than that, overall magical. Story direction. I'm glad it was very different than the formulaic 1980s episode. Let's be honest, for the hundreds of episodes there were in the original 80s cartoon, they all followed the same formula, but a lot of story arcs were hinted to, mainly one regarding the Sorceress of Grayskull and her daughter, which I've always wanted them to explore more of. But this is not how it worked in the 80s. So here I was, hoping to see, ready for a different direction, and I got it in episode 1. What a fantastic hit. Just kicking into high gear right away. So I like the direction it was going. That doesn't mean that I don't want to see He-Man. No. Now, what was startling about the first episode? Oh, what made me go, ew? Teela going apeshit at discovering that He-Man was Prince Adam the whole time, and she's been lied to. Now, I get it, believe me. That's a big lie. That's something that she didn't know, and being so close, she would feel frustration about it. I understand completely. It's not wrong. I get her feeling, but the sacrifice he made, and by the way, one of the most noble sacrifices I've seen, I thought He-Man did a great thing, and that still did not mean anything to Teela in the end. This huge sacrifice for everyone is totally forgotten, sidelined by her in her total Karen breakdown. She was valid in feeling betrayed, but at the extent at which we witnessed and the remaining 4 episodes, I ain't afraid to say it, but she overreacted. So here's when I look back, and if this is a continuation of the 80s series, I know how the characters should act and feel. I know we didn't get the most three-dimensional, the most characterization in the early cartoon, but from what I knew of her then, this wasn't how she'd react. I could understand it for a few minutes. I can understand her angry to her friends and her family. But she wasn't the only person that didn't know Prince Adam was He-Man. I mean, Ram Man didn't know, Stratos didn't know, Mechanic didn't know. None of those guys were in the series, or at least chapter. So I don't know where those guys are, but not everybody knew anyway. But Teela was best friends with Prince Adam, and I get it. Her being betrayed felt right, but the amount at which she felt betrayed and the length of that betrayal seemed a lot more a different characterization than I knew that Teela was. So I know it was the catalyst for this episode to move on. But still, that made me go, oh. So I got a bit turned off at the moment and hoped that all this worry that we've been having before the cartoon came out wasn't going to be true. All right, it wasn't called He-Man. And I know that is just semantics, that it was called Masters of the Universe Revelation. But what was it about He-Man? No, not at all. And that disappoints me. Was He-Man sidelined? No. I don't think so. Matter of fact, he was an important part of the story. Very, very vital to the lead character's journey to overcome her own pride. So that, yeah, you heard it. The lead character, who is it? It's Teela. Teela was the lead in this chapter. And I'm not afraid to say that's okay that the other Masters of the Universe have a storyline. She has a great storyline. And by the way, it kept being alluded to throughout those chapters where we would head for her. And I hope we get there. So, unlike everyone said, He-Man was in it more than the first episode. He was an important part of the story, or at least Adam. He-Man wasn't the lead character, no. But there are so many stories to tell in Masters of the Universe. I was willing to see this one, which way this was going. Now, did Kevin Smith lie to us? Sure, if you want to get all that way about it. I know that negativity and outrage sell. Now, mislead us? Oh, absolutely. Talk about semantics, right, Kevin? Yeah, it was misleading to hear. I did figure I would see a lot more of him. At least I did see him, and at least I understood he was important as I saw the series grow. I saw He-Man. Did I see enough of He-Man? No. And I really hope that changes in the next chapter. That's going to be very important to me to know that there's another chapter of this, and that might change around. And I felt like it will, but I still believe that this should have had 3 chapters in there. Let's review. Let's break down the good, the bad, the Easter eggs. Okay, let's start with what I thought was fantastic. At the very beginning of this series, you see that fantastic art, the artwork that has graced the toy packages of Castle Grayskull, that has been in storybooks, that have been on packaging. That artwork kind of moving in that beginning narration was phenomenally comforting and made me feel nostalgic, and I loved it. I already mentioned how most of the animation was good. Overall, the backgrounds and even the magical, the color, very vibrant, and I enjoyed it. The voices. So, some of these were top-notch, and let me tell you who's got top. Evil Lynn. Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. Evil Lynn became my most favorite character in the entire chapter because of her growth and her the way she delivered her lines. But Evil Lynn was my favorite. He-Man's voice. Really enjoyable as Adam, and He-Man did a really great job, so I liked that a lot. And although I think that Mark Hamill did fantastic as Skeletor, we've all heard it before, sounds very little Joker-like, more than it probably should. The funny thing is, I heard some people complaining that he wasn't the wisecracking Skeletor. He had some really good lines in there.
I look forward to our next tussle, but I won't hold my breath.
He maybe not delivered them like Alan Oppenheimer did, but they still were there, and that was that was nice to hear. Speaking of Alan, Mossman's voice by the end, when I heard him again, you heard it right away. You knew who that was. You knew that character voice, and you're very glad that in there. Roboto. Robato's voice is hysterical and wonderful at the same time. I thought it was well done and very robotic, but at the same time, there was this emotional Pinocchio-ness to him. But more than that, did anyone else think he sounded like Baymax? Yeah, Baymax from Big Hero 6. He sounded a lot like him, had that same care, that same concern. Does anyone need medical attention? So I love that, and I love Baymax, so I like that about Roboto. Andra, that character was really cool. She was down to earth. She wasn't overpowering. They took a little secondary character from the comics and they gave her depth, dimension. They fleshed her out. And for me, who didn't even know who the character was, Actually, I really enjoyed her more than some other characters, to be honest. The villains, seeing where they had gone. I really liked seeing what happened to Triclops. Starting in a cult about technology, and that Masters of the Universe has always been about sorcery and magic as well as technology, a really strange combination. So I really liked seeing that, as well as where the other characters had gone. Beastman being such basically the bodyguard. He had such an affinity for Evelyn that it was so cool to see how he had changed, and he really followed her because she was my favorite character. It was neat to see the dynamic there. So I liked seeing what had happened to the villains. Scareglow, his role, the importance of his role for a character that never made it in the cartoon, has a cool action figure. There he was as sort of a being that oversaw the underworld, or Subternia, was incredible. How they animated him, I'd say he was probably the best animated character in that chapter. I mean it. I'm not kidding. If you don't agree with me, that's okay. You don't have to. Seeing the Eternia playset, oh my God, that's also one of my favorites. So the Eternian playset in Preternia was beautiful. Now, they didn't go into the Snake Tower, which I hoped, but it was really great to see all of the towers and the champions there. I'm not sure if I missed it or not. Was that champion that looked like the Sorceress, was that Vina from the Mike Young series? So it was cool to see the Mike Young storylines and themes. So from King Grayskull and possibly Vina to other storylines and Easter eggs from the Mike Young series. Great to see in there. Also, Wundar. Who doesn't love to see Savage He-Man? I mean, Wundar was in it. Loved to see that. So that was phenomenal. Also, I really was thinking there'd be some male bashing, but there wasn't. So I'm really happy, and I found it great that there wasn't male bashing. I also found that there was a subtlety in the relationship between Teela and Andra. And yeah, that relationship wasn't also a pushed or forced thing. It seemed very natural for those two. Teela crying, showing tears, even showing more emotion, smiling when she was reminded how wonderful her friendship was with Prince Adam. So that was neat to see because she had to grow and kind of overcome her pride. That is her problem. So that was very neat to see. Orko and Robato's death. Sad, very. But when you see a favorite character give their life, especially in a way that is sacrificial or for the good of others, it not only gives depth to them, but it really raises the stakes. And I love that in shows, movies, TV. That makes me feel good about where this is going. And hey, when I talk about maturity, there was a little blood, there was a little hell, there was a little damn, could have even used more. But these are these things that I really, really enjoyed about watching this story unfold, where we went, how they did develop some of the characters. Some shined more than others. Okay, so now the bad. I already told you straight from the get-go, that first episode, Teela's breakdown, that Karen moment is horrible. Understandable, but the grudge she felt and took on with her through everyone, basically disowning herself from her family, just taking herself all the way away from it for that reason seemed like overkill, but that's one thing. The other, the very start of episode 1, here we go, getting into it. We're not slowing down. We're going to go ahead and have Skeletor infiltrate the castle with Faker, and somehow the sorceress is duped immediately. Now that's lame. I mean, all this time, and the sorceress is just totally fooled by a little Faker and Skeletor in disguise as Spikor with a crutch. What? Now this is where it comes down to, this whole series could be 3 chapters. Chapter 1 could have been episode 1 stretched out to 5 episodes, because we are so used to the old cartoon and where it came from, and that formulaic bad things happen, He-Man wins, Skeletor fails. In this case, we could have stretched out that entire episode 1 to be chapter 1. 5 episodes to get us to that death of He-Man in that fantastic sacrifice, because it was rushed. War, fighting, suddenly it's all over. And by the way, where's Fisto and Clamp Champ? They're seen for a heartbeat, and then they're not seen again. We don't even see them in the future. Speaking of them, where is Queen Marlena and King Randor? They're gone as well. I mean, these are, again, some of the negatives. That's all they are. Some negatives that I feel like, could have seen those guys again. Would have been wonderful. Okay, the story I think was good. It's the dialogue. Sometimes the dialogue ran the gamut of being sophomoric to childish. And I do know that this is for a larger mass audience, even if it's trying to really get with the fans. There is a mass retail action figure line by Mattel. So I think they do want kids and families and new fans to come from it. I get it. I'm not stupid. I know that. Besides the obvious of not seeing He-Man as much, they actually did push a lot of characters into the show as much as they could. Some people got less screen time than the others. Animation of Merman. I don't know. Didn't think it was that dynamic. Great to see him, but not that dynamic. Scareglows was definitely the best. None of this took me out of it. The only thing that took me out of it was truly the rant by Teela. Seeing He-Man in flashbacks was certainly a plus, and it made me feel like we were trying to tell a different story. Because how many times did you guys notice that they were trying to tell Teela something and that whole storyline was kind of shut up? That is, I'm guessing, about the sorceress. I think chapter 2 should have been this quest. Absolutely should have been this quest. And then chapter 3, which I would love to see. Chapter 3 would be great if it could be what happens next. Finally, the chapter 3 could be that part where true balance is brought back. He-Man is resurrected. Teela becomes the sorceress. Skeletor is vanquished. And then we see hints of Hordak or the Snake Men, so that you know that this conflict will continue, but from a new battlefield. I'm going to leave it last on some of the Easter eggs. Oh my goodness. The fact that Queen Marlena, back in the 1980s, hinted with a wink and a nudge that she knew her son was He-Man. Was great to see that she did still know that, and they put that out there. I love the Easter egg when Teela was introduced at the beginning and Queen Marlena called her a warrior goddess, the description on her packaging. I loved when Evelyn and Teela were on the boat and they actually referenced the episode that they had to work together in and kind of be allied. There were Easter eggs even inside Castle Grayskull, the throne room itself. When the floor let out, I kind of got the feel of the 1987 live-action movie, as well as the discs that were both in the live-action movie and the Mike Young productions. Of course, seeing the champions, those Easter eggs are pretty blatant there, but not only just seeing Hero and Vicor and Wondar and King Grayskull, but you also saw the dinosaurs that were part of those kind of failed toy lines at the late 80s that He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was going to. So it was neat to see so many Easter eggs, so many things referenced, that I got a kick out of it. I wish we had seen more characters. I wish Fisto and Clamchamp were back in it. Where was Ram-Man and Stratos? Where was Zodak? And maybe they're still to come. I can only hope. Hey folks, if you've enjoyed this review and the content I'm sharing and how positive I am, why don't you press that subscribe button? Show me the power. This was great to do. It was a lot of fun, and there's a lot more content to come. So on the final note, I went into this cartoon a little intrepidatious because I had seen all the negative. I've seen so much hate on this, and being what I consider a true fan of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I was so excited to see them again. I was so excited to take a different journey with him. And I do hope chapter 2, and who knows, maybe a chapter 3, will even expand and explore the story, but bring me back some He-Man, because yes, I was disappointed. I wish He-Man was in it more, but he was there, and I still got that good goosebumpy feeling overall. Give it a shot. Watch this show. Watch it for its story and character development. Even if you weren't an original fan, you can enjoy it. So I hope you'd enjoy this review. I got another one to make on Thursday with Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom on Netflix Thursday night. Another one of those 80s franchises I love. But I'll be here. I need a hero! That's it for this, so until next time.